Shalom. I'm Eddie Chumney of Hebraic Heritage Ministries, and we welcome you to this week's Focus Israel Report. In this week's report, we're going to be sharing with you regarding the current status of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, as well as the current situation with Syria and Iran. First, an overview of the peace process. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas sent a letter to U.S. President Barack Obama insisting that the Palestinian bid to submit an application to the UN General Assembly to vote on a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital is non-negotiable, and it is also not a unilateral move that is in opposition to a two-state solution. During a meeting with Brazilian Foreign Minister Antonio Patriota and U.S. General Consul Michael Ratney, Palestinian chief negotiator Saeb Erekat said that the UN draft resolution emphasized the illegality of settlements and noted that an Israeli withdrawal from the occupied territories should be based on the 1967 borders. Namir Hamad, political advisor to Mahmoud Abbas, said that the UN statehood bid is intended to solidify the right of the Palestinian people to their land, which is under occupation, and it is not disputed territories. Hussein al-Araj, director of Abbas's Bureau, said that the move was mainly designed to put an end to Israeli claims that the occupied Palestinian territories, including East Jerusalem, are disputed territories. In response, the United States said that a Palestinian bid to upgrade its UN status to a sovereign country would jeopardize the peace process with Israel and make it difficult to get the two sides to return to talks on a two-state solution. Britain urged the Palestinian leadership to delay its bid for upgraded status at the United Nations General Assembly, warning that the move is likely to be detrimental to U.S. re-engagement with the peace process following the November 6th U.S. presidential elections. Meanwhile, the Arab League, the non-aligned movement, and Russia expressed their support for the Palestinian effort at the UN General Assembly. Egypt's UN ambassador, speaking to the Council on behalf of the Arab group of countries, said it fully supported the Palestinians' bid. He said, "We expect the UN General Assembly to adopt a resolution during its current session to upgrade the status of Palestine to become a non-member observer state as a first step toward reaching full membership." Russia's UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin said, "We believe that the initiative to gain broad international recognition for Palestinian statehood complements efforts to achieve a negotiated solution to the conflict with Israel rather than serving as an alternative. In no case should they be used by Israel to tighten the screws in the occupied territories or exert any other pressure on the Palestinian Authority." Meanwhile, the president of the UN General Assembly said that Abbas is consulting with UN member states and is expected to call for a meeting on the Palestinian issue as early as November, but following the November 6th U.S. presidential election. He said most people expect that it's going to be the second half of November when the vote takes place. He warned the United States against cutting UN funding over the issue. In other matters, Israel granted final approval to a plan to build 800 homes near Gilo in annexed East Jerusalem. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton opposed the decision, saying settlements are illegal under international law and threatened to make a two-state solution impossible. She added that Jerusalem's continued expansion of Jewish settlements like Gilo and Har Homa in and around Jerusalem continue the process of separating East Jerusalem from the rest of the occupied Palestinian territory. Ashton reiterated that talks continue to represent the best way forward in resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and called on both parties to immediately return to the negotiating table. Israel Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman rebuked the European Union by saying that they needed to mind their own business and stay clear of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He went on to say that Jerusalem is not a settlement. Gilo is a Jewish neighborhood. Today, there are 32 to 33,000 Jews living there. It's an integral part of Jerusalem. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, Israel is not imposing any restrictions on construction in Jerusalem. It is Israel's capital. Just as other nations build in London, Paris, Washington, and Moscow, we will continue to build in Jerusalem. Finally, Israel has agreed to hold general elections for January the 22nd, 2013. According to the current polls, Netanyahu is expected to remain as prime minister. Next, regarding the current situation with Syria, it is as follows. Hezbollah, the militant Lebanese Shiite Islamic Party, is helping Syrian government forces of Bashar Assad on the ground in their fight against the rebel Free Syrian Army. Furthermore, Hezbollah has begun depleting lines of rockets and fighting units it has facing Israel and moving them to the Syrian front line. On October the 17th, Russia announced the deployment of advanced S-400 interceptor missile batteries in Russia's southern military region opposite of Turkey. Finally, we're going to share with you the current situation regarding Iran, and it is as follows. The European Union has agreed to impose further sanctions against Iran's banking, shipping, and industrial sectors, hoping that Iran will negotiate more seriously over suspending its nuclear program. Before the approval of these sanctions, Iran managed to install the last 4 clusters of 174 centrifuges, each inside in Fordo's B chamber. Iran's nuclear program's high-speed uranium enrichment plant has been entirely sequestered in the fortified underground Fordo site near Qom. The Iranians are preparing to change the active formation of the Fordo centrifuges and adapt them for refining uranium up to 60%, which is a short step before the weapons grade of 90% enriched uranium. The conversion is expected to be ready to go in the second half of December or early of January 2013. DEPCA, an Israel intelligence and news gathering website, reports that the latest U.S. intelligence information reveals that Iran will have enough enriched uranium for 4 to 6 bombs by March of 2013. France's foreign minister said that Iran appears on track to reach the ability to produce a nuclear weapon by the first half of 2013. Iran is not expected to give into international sanctions, which desires to cause Iran to end its nuclear program. The current U.S. view on Iran was shared in a foreign policy debate that took place between U.S. President Barack Obama and Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney. In the debate, Obama and Romney both pledged to stand with Israel if it was attacked, but neither replied directly to the question put forth by the moderator of the debate, Bob Schieffer, regarding whether Obama or Romney would offer a formal declaration as president to treat an attack on Israel as though it was an attack on the United States, especially in relation to a nuclear Iran. Romney replied to the question by saying, "If Israel is attacked, we will have their back." He added that he would stop a nuclear-capable, not just a nuclear Iran. Both candidates agreed that military action was a last resort against Iran after all other options have been exhausted. Obama said, "I will stand with Israel if they are attacked, and I will not let Iran get a nuclear weapon," but added that Romney seems willing to take premature military action. He cited unprecedented military and intelligence cooperation between his administration and Israel and pledged an unbreakable bond with Israel. However, certain reservations on the Iranian issue on part of both Obama and Romney reflect the erosion of Israel's strategic position with the United States in the 4 years of the Obama presidency. When the debate moderator asked how they would react to a telephone call from the Israeli Prime Minister announcing that bombers were on their way to attack Iran, Romney replied that his relations with Israel would be such that the phone call would not be made. Obama did not reply to the question. While Romney said tough sanctions against Iran should have come earlier than they were imposed by the Obama administration, Obama stressed that his first priority had been to round up a world coalition to make sanctions effective. Romney wanted action against Iran to include an economic boycott and isolation, tighter sanctions, and getting Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad indicted before the International Court for promoting genocide by saying that Israel should be wiped off the map. Romney attacked Obama's record by saying, "We are 4 years closer to a nuclear Iran and have seen a dramatic reversal of the Arab Spring, with the Middle East in the grip of violent turbulence and extremism, and Al-Qaeda continues to flourish. As a result, Iran sees U.S. weakness where it expected strength." Romney charged that Obama was silent when students in Tehran demonstrated for democracy. Within their debate regarding the issue of U.S. relations with Israel, Romney called the tension between U.S. and Israel that has come about in the 4 years of the Obama administration as very unfortunate. Romney pointed out that when Obama went to the Middle East and traveled to Cairo, Egypt in early 2009, he did not go to Israel, and Obama has yet to visit Israel as president. Obama replied that as a presidential candidate, he did go to Israel, and he visited the Israeli Holocaust Museum Yad Vashem and various towns in southern Israel that were hit by Hamas rockets. When asked to name the greatest security threat to the United States today, Obama said terrorism, while Romney said a nuclear Iran. Well, that is going to conclude this week's report, where we shared with you the current status of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process and the current situation with Syria and Iran. Regarding the peace process, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas sent a letter to U.S. President Barack Obama insisting that the Palestinian application to the UN General Assembly to vote on a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital is non-negotiable, and it is also seen by the Palestinians as not being a unilateral move that is in opposition to the two-state solution. The Palestinians' reason for going to the UN General Assembly is meant to affirm that the West Bank and East Jerusalem are not disputed territories, but are occupied Palestinian territories. The United States and Britain opposes this move by the Palestinians, seeing that it is detrimental to the peace process, preferring instead that the issue be resolved through direct negotiations. However, the Arab League, the non-aligned movement countries, and Russia expressed their support for the Palestinian desire for recognition of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital at the UN General Assembly. The President of the UN General Assembly said that Mahmoud Abbas is consulting with UN member states regarding the issue, and a vote is expected to take place in the second half of November. In Syria, Hezbollah is actively helping the government of Bashar Assad. Meanwhile, the European Union has imposed additional sanctions on Iran, while Iran continues to make progress in building a bomb, with projections that they will be able to do so in the spring or summer of 2013. Until we do it again, Shalom, in Yeshua the Messiah, Amen.